Hello team, today's challenge is Bucket Fill 3, where we're given something similar to what we've already seen in Bucket Fill 2, a matrix of color, and we need to return how many clicks are in that. But if you remember from Bucket Fill 2 over here, we just clicked around left to right, top to bottom, until we got it all done, at which point we return that count. Well, today we want to be more optimized than that. So as an example right here, we have our example. This is example 3. This is example 4. And if we just start the way that we did before, we would get click 1, click 2 for this group of yellow, click 3 for this group of yellow, and that would change it. But if we change purple to yellow first, and then all of the yellows to whatever the final color is, that's only 2 clicks, right? So that's way faster. That's optimized. And then down here, same thing. If we look at this, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if my math is doing me justice here. But if we started with the B's, right? We changed the B's to C's. That's 1 click. And then the C's to Y's, that's 2 click. And then the Y's to their final color and the G to the final color, that's 4 clicks, right? Which is a lot less than 6, right? It's less than 6. It's more optimized. So that's the goal. Now, the way that we did it last time, we kind of iterated on the grid and we made changes to the grid to technically a copy of the grid, but we did this, right? And we totally, as we were going through, we tallied up a count, at which point we returned it. Well, what I realized is that we don't need to do anything to the grid. Okay, if all we do is we get the parts that we need and put those together and figure out what the final number is, that should be faster, right? So we aren't going to touch grid today. We are going to have this pattern of code in, right? But it's not going to be that other thing. And in fact, to show you how, I'm going to copy all this because I will need directions and bring it back here, okay? So I'm going to comment this out because we're going to come back to it, but directions is definitely needed. And this part, it'll be very similar. You'll see, okay? Down here, we start with a destructure, okay? And I called this get blobs because what I want to do is I want to get all the groups of colors, right? That's the key. I want to get the clusters. Maybe clusters would have been a better name than blobs, but all those different groups of colors so that I can operate on them, okay? And that's what this does. So I pass in grid just like this, spelling it right, grid. And the thing that I will get back is blob ID and blobs. The blobs will be an array of all those different colors. And blob ID will be a matrix that is similar to whatever we pass in. Only the relationship will be, instead of colors, it will have numbers that relate to our blobs data. Okay, so all the same numbers, if we were to console log out blob ID, all the same numbers will be whatever that blob's color is. Okay, so we're creating relationships here. Okay, with that, we need this. So get it up here and go function, spelling it right, function, and sending it in. Now, inside of here, we want to create that blob ID, okay? So right here, I'm gonna go let blob ID, it's gonna be equal to grid.map for the row. And what do? Well, we row.map for the columns, but we don't actually care what the values are here. We're always returning -1. And so what we've done is we've created a grid, a matrix right here that is the same shape as grid, but all it has is -1 instead of that color string, right? And the goal is to change this to an actual number that relates to the blobs data, okay? So with that, we go down here and we go blobs, send that equal to an array, which we will fill out because for let r equals 0, right? we need loops. So we're going to drop into that loop. That's going to be r less than grid.length, just like this, and r plus plus, right? Doing this, dropping down, just like I've done in previous videos. We're going to copy this because it's just easier, right? So right there, grid is not grid, it's grid R or grid 0, whatever you want to do there. Excellent, okay? Cleaning it up because we can, and sending it through, okay? Now, as we work through here, as we work through this loop, we are going to update the numbers inside of blob ID. If we've already updated a number, we should not update it again, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So with that, we go blob ID and we get the row and the column, right? And if that is not equal to -1, then continue. We've already touched it. We don't need to work on it again. Excellent, okay? If it is -1, then we do some stuff. We push the color. So push what? Well, it's going to be color. We're going to pass in grid, row, and doing it right, jumping around, column. And we need the position of this color, okay? The position is the cell, which we're going to do as row and column. Brilliant, okay? The last part is blob ID, okay? Just like this, we're going to do a reassignment. And for that, I'm going to mark blob, okay? So I'm going to iterate over my blob ID. I'm going to do some stuff to it, and then I'm going to send it back out to blob ID, okay? And that's how there might be a time where we hit something that is not -1, even though we assigned everything to -1, okay? So that blob ID gets a couple things. It gets the grid, it gets the blob ID because, hey, we'll need it, right? And in fact, blob ID is what we mostly work on inside of this. So it's really the most important part, right? And then of course, row and column, just like this, and something that we call an ID, which is blobs.length -1, okay? Right now it's 0, so the ID will be -1, which is kind of weird, but it works, okay? It absolutely works. Once we get down here, right at the bottom, we should return. What are we returning? Well, it's blob ID and blobs, right? That's the whole goal. We have not created this mark blob, so let's go do that right here. Function, mark blob, doing some stuff, changing some things. This block right here just changes to ID, and then we do pretty much what you see up here. Okay, so almost line for line, we do it. So let new blob, come on, blob ID, just like this. We're going to set that equal to blob ID dot what? It was map, right? Don't know why I forgot that, because it's right there. It's right there, right? In fact, we could just go and do that. So row, spreading out row, excellent, okay? We're going to get the color, right? So const color, just like this. We're going to get that from what? It's going to be from grid, okay? And we're going to peel that off of row and column, okay? Now, one thing that I didn't do that I want to, for reasons, is I want to make these arguments very clear. So this is row and this is column. Great, okay? So row and column, just like that, which means that now the final piece, which is new blob ID, right? Just like this, we're doing this assignment for row and column, just like this, is equal to what? Well, it's equal to ID, okay? Up here, we pass in new value. Right here, we pass in ID. Names. Naming thing is hard, okay? So we automatically assign that, which is good, okay? At the end of it, we are going to return, there it is, new blob ID. So there's that part there. And then, of course, inside of here, okay? Inside of here, we want to do the same thing, right? So we get this part here for the directions. We can actually paste that in, doing the thing. And we want to do this part here. Absolutely. We're going to bring that in, paste it in, and then we do our conditional. So we've gotten our directions, direction of the row, direction of the column. We've set that relative to our row and column to get the R and C. Okay. So if grid R and C, okay, but R might not exist, which means that C will throw errors, which means we should chain it, right? Optional chaining for the win. If this is equal to color, that's a good thing, okay? That's what we want. And new blob ID for the same thing, so we can actually just copy and paste this right here, copying it, pasting it over, doing the thing, making sure that it is equal to -1, right? Because we've already, we're operating on new blob ID, which is a matrix. If it's not -1, it means that we've already touched that and we shouldn't be changing that again, right? We've already figured that part out, which means that we should leave it alone, which means that we drop in and do the thing. So if we found a color that matches our current color and it's a place that we can actually do work on, okay, that's what we're going for. Then we set new blob ID equal to mark blob with all the stuff. So grid and new blob ID and the row and the column, which we get, and of course, whatever our ID is, okay? At which point we send it through. So all that is there, and we have gathered up all those colors. A lot of work just to get colors, right? Hopefully you're seeing that. But this sets us up for the next step, which is we need to get the neighbors. But before we get the neighbors, we should drop down here and do a little bit to make sure that everything is working. And that bit is if blobs.length, if it is equal to 1, okay? If it's equal to 1, it means that there's only one color. That's the whole thing. If it's equal to 1, there's only one color. And what we need to decide is it the same as target color or is it different? If it's the same as target color, then it's 0 clicks. We're done. If it's different, then it's 1 click, right? 1 click to change everything if it's only a single color. So we can totally test that where we go blobs 0.color. We test to see if that's equal to target color, just like this. If it is 0, otherwise 1, right? And if I fire this, what I should find is that the first 2 tests pass. That means I'm in good shape because everything is starting to fall into place. We have the 1, we have the 0. Everything else is a number greater than that. So we need to figure out some optimized paths for that, okay? And the next step of that is to get the neighbors. So down here, at least for this, if we review really quick, right, you can see our flood fill function. It's almost a 1-to-1 match for our mark blob function. But instead of operating on the grid, we're operating on blob ID, okay? Neighbors, let's go and do that. Boom. Right down here, we go const neighbors equals get neighbors, okay? Just like that. Neighbors takes a few arguments. So we get the grid, we get the blob ID, just like this. We get the blobs dot length. The blobs dot length ensures that our neighbors are pretty much a 1-to-1 match with our colors, with the clusters of colors, or our blobs, okay? We have not created that, so let's go and do that. Copy it, bring it up right here. We have get blobs. Oh, I'm jumping around. I hate that. Did it change? Oh, it did. Brilliant. So sometimes when my trackpad accidentally goes backwards and it doesn't save, which is kind of annoying, but neighbors, okay? Equal to all of this. Thankfully, it was all still there. And then, of course, up here, we have function, get it all. Instead of blobs, I called this blob count, spelling it right, count, and doing the work, okay? The first step is to actually create an array that we can populate with neighbors. Okay, so right here we have neighbors equal to array.from, and we're going to send through. The only reason to send in blob count, blob count is to get that length. So length blob count. Okay. And then of course we send some information through where we do new set. Excellent. Okay. So we have this array of sets, and that aligns perfectly with our blobs.length. That's the goal because we want it to match up. Okay. So down in here, we start adding some stuff. And what do? Well, it's another for loop. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to grab this, copying it, bringing it down just like this, going here, and adding some space. Okay. The ID. Okay. We're going to set that equal to blob ID. And we're going to get that from row and column. We're guaranteed to have those because we have row and column. So that should absolutely be in there. That's not a problem. And right here, what I want to do is set up another for loop. Okay. In fact, this for loop is this one right here. So we can absolutely do this, just grabbing this, copying it, bringing it down. No guts, no glory. Excellent. Adding this so that it's all closed off. But we need to change some things, okay? Because row is actually R and column is actually C, which means that these R and C don't work, which means we're going to go new row and new column. Great. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that works. Good. Okay. The other thing that we need is the new ID. So const NID, we're going to set it equal to blob ID, just like this for what? For new row and new column. Okay. Again, because we've moved things with this direction, this might not exist. So more optional chaining. Okay. Now, if NID is not undefined, okay, we set it up here. If because of the optional chaining, it might return undefined. If it's not undefined and too many ampersands, but and NID does not equal ID, then what? Then neighbors for ID add neighbor. Sorry, add NID. I almost forgot there. Okay. But yes, so again, we've set up this array. We have that ID, whatever it is, it's going to be this thing right here, right? We're peeling it out of blob ID, and we are setting NID to be that value on ID. Okay. Which means that all this right down here to the bottom of this function, we return neighbors just like this. Okay. Oh, we have two pieces of the puzzle. Okay. We have all of our colors. That's the blobs. We have all their neighbors. That's get neighbors. Now we need to set our plan. Okay. And our plan is both the longest bit of code and the home stretch. So hopefully if you've stayed this long, please keep going with me. I'm almost done. We're going to get there. Okay. But right here, I need to add in let best order. Okay. We're going to leave it as undefined because we're going to populate it, right? And leaving it as undefined is a good place to be. Now for let I equal 0 and I less than, what was it? Blobs dot length, just like this, and I plus plus, doing it right, plus plus, sending it down, doing the thing, const order equals get fill plan, a function we haven't made, right? We're going to do that. We're going to send in I as our starting position, okay? And then the blobs and the neighbors, okay? Neighbors, just like this. Excellent. If there is no best order, okay? So if it is undefined, or order.length is sorry, is less than best order, right? Then set best order equal to order dot length +1. Excellent. The +1 is a final click. I don't fully understand it, but for some reason, the way that I wrote this code, I always need to add 1 for a final click. Who knew? Okay. But with all this, this function is now done. And all I need to do is figure out get plan and all its little sundry bits. So let's go do that right here. Okay. Function, get plan, sending it through. Let's rename I to start so that we have that and do the thing. Okay. So const visited. We're going to maintain a list of places that we visited. If we visited them, we're going to ignore it. So there's going to be a lot of skipping, right? To be sure, but that's going to be new set and start. Okay. So right there. The next part is the cluster, right? Cluster, just like this. We're going to set that to start. Okay. And then of course, const order, which is going to be empty. And in fact, order is what we're going to return. So return order like this. And then of course, down here is where we start to do stuff. So we enter a while loop. Okay. That while loop is cluster dot length. So what we're going to do is, as we work through this, we are going to change cluster. We might empty it out. We might fill it up, but whatever it is, we're going to operate under the assumption that it has a length or it doesn't. If length is 0, then we should exit the loop, right? That's the whole goal. With that, we start doing stuff for the colors. So we want to get everything by color, just like this. And that's going to be our last function. Okay, that's unvisited neighbors. Come on, neighbors by color. It's a mouthful. We're going to pass in the cluster, the neighbors, and the blobs, and the visited. And that's going to do kind of that chunk of work. Okay. That is going to return a map. So inside of here, we're going to generate a map, capital M map, at which point we should have access to size. Okay, not length, but size. So if by colors dot size is equal to 0, then break, skip it, right? Get it done. Otherwise, we're going to empty out clusters and start again. Clusters right here, emptying it out, cluster, not plural, okay? So for const color and IDs of by colors, okay? Because it's a map, we can absolutely destructure on it. By color. Do it right. No S. There it is. Okay. But yeah, because by color is a map, we can totally iterate on it, which means that we can just drop into a loop like this where we destructure the key and the values. And then, of course, we do a little push here. So pushing into orders. What are we pushing? Well, it's going to be color because we've clicked on it. That's the theory. Click. Done. Okay. With that, we go for let ID of IDs. It's weird that I made this one a const. Let's fix that. Const let. I probably did that up above too because I'm just racing along. But let ID of IDs, it won't actually affect anything. I just like it that way. Let ID of IDs. Jumping back to it. If visited, right? So if visited dot has, right? If it has the ID, then continue. Okay. If it doesn't, then visited dot add ID and cluster dot push ID. Okay. Final part. Here it is. The final part. We have this unvisited. We're going to grab this, copy it, bring it up one more time, one more function, hoping it works, doing the thing. Okay. So unvisited by color, const by color equals new map. Okay. For const ID of clusters, right? So we're going to iterate over cluster. Thank you. Should have just done it as plural. It's tripping me up so much. Const ID of cluster. Okay. We're going to send through another loop. Okay. So for const ID of cluster, for, oh, I did it again. Look at that. Const let, I getting lazy here. Getting to the end of it, and I'm starting to make mistakes that I don't really like. So that's me. Again, it won't change anything, but I do prefer the let here. It just feels more descriptive. Okay. Let neighbor, just like this, of what? Well, it's going to be neighbors, right? Neighbors, ID, right? At which point we do some stuff. If visited, we've already seen this one, but if visited dot has neighbor, just like this, then continue. We skip it. Okay. Otherwise, if not, so this is important. If by color doesn't have a color that's in blobs, then we should figure some stuff out. Okay. So by color, just like this, dot has blobs neighbor dot color. Okay. If by color does not have this color, then we want to do something. What do we want to do? Well, it's by color dot set for blobs neighbor dot color. Okay. So we set up a thing where it is an empty array. That's the thing. That's where I'm going with that. This is kind of like when we do nullish coalescing with a double question mark. Okay. We are setting this up because right after it, we're going to do the same thing one more time by color dot get this time. And we're going to get blobs neighbor, just like this, dot color. And then that all returns the array that we push onto. And this time we are doing it by reference, right? We're creating the reference and we're using the reference, not a problem. Okay. So we push neighbor onto here. And then finally, return by color. And does it work? It absolutely does. Holy moly. Okay. It has been a long time coming to get there. So let's take a look. I'm going to clear this out for a second and we're going to take a look. Now, flood fill. It actually brought this back when I refreshed the page because it didn't save for some reason. That was not needed. But what we did was we created a function, two functions actually, but we created a way to get all of our color groups, right? I call them blobs. Hopefully you call them something better, right? But that's the whole point of this first bit. And in order to get there, we used code that is very familiar to us from the previous example. It's not exactly the same because we're using blob instead of grid. We aren't working on grid anymore. We're just working on this other thing, right? But we created a copy and then we got some data and then we filled it in and then we used our directions, right? Which we did copy over and we tested those. If we found a color that matched and we found a position that we have not operated on yet, then we went again, right? To get all those different positions to get it done. So the first part, these two functions here got those groups of colors. And then from there, we had a function that went through and got the neighbors, right? So we created a new array. That array was the same length as whatever our blobs.length was because it should have pretty much a one-to-one relationship, right? That's the goal. And then from there, we looped through again. We did some stuff with direction. If that all worked out, we added it so that we had it, and then we returned it. And then using both those, so using the blobs and the neighbors, we developed a plan, right? And this plan basically goes through, it creates these clusters. And then as the clusters change, right? So long as cluster has a length, that's greater than 0, we go and we figure out our unvisited neighbors by color, right? And then of course we test some stuff and we iterate and loop over all that returned information, at which point we get it and we return order. But all of that is in service to the main function. So bucket fill, right? This is where we call get blobs. Did a little bit in case blobs only has 1, we can return early, right? Then we got our neighbors. Then we set up our loop to get our plan, right? At which point everything works. Super long, right? Not exactly a fun challenge. I feel like there are places in here that are just ripe for optimization, right? It's not necessarily slow. It's just it's a lot, right? It's a lot. So I get that. If you got here with me or you went a different way and you want to share that, please do. Please also let me know what you like, what you hated about it, all that good stuff. Again, it's a long one, so take your time with it. Go through it again, read the code, and do the thing, right? Lots and lots of stuff going on here. With that, it is the end of Bucket Fill 3. It is not my last challenge, though, and I will definitely be here tomorrow where we take on the next one. I actually forget what it's called, but it is in there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I hope to see you there.